Hey everybody, welcome to the clubhouse. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. We've got a lot of great things planned for you. A little spooky. Hope you're in a spooky mood. We're going to talk about ghost grids today. We're going to talk about some new things that have come into the shop and invite you to a little special freebie event that we're going to have online as well. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining us. And as always, I hope that you find value and that you learn something. And I would love to see if you use one of the designs that we talk about or any of the concepts that we discuss here in the clubhouse. I would absolutely love to see what you put it on. I am nosy at heart, so I'm always interested in what you're doing and how you apply what we talk about. It's pretty inspirational to me. This whole year, we've been talking about grids and different ways to use grids, and grids are such a great introduction way into free motion quilting. If free motion gets you kind of bunched up, which it does for a lot of people, it really breaks down a space so that you can focus on something much smaller and not get overwhelmed. So grids, if you're new to quilting, grids are a great introduction to free motion design. Now, we are in October of 2021, so after today, we'll have only 2 more grid sessions together for 2021. And then we hit 2022, and I have no idea what we're going to do in 2022. So if you have a thought, if you have a theme, if you have an idea of what we might cover in 2022, can you put it down there in the comments? Because you guys always have such great ideas, and it might help me kind of think and build a theme around 2022. So I would love that if you put that in the comments. And then if you have used any of the grid designs that we have talked about so far, if you would also just put in the comments, yes, I use them, or no, not yet, to give me a sense of, you know, if you are enjoying what we're watching, if what you're watching, if we are kind of connecting with you, it always helps. You know, it's when we're in a classroom setting, I can look at eyeballs and see if the light bulbs are going off above the head, but online, of course, I can't see. So, so if you would just put down there in the chat, you know, if you have an idea of what we might cover or something you'd like to talk about next year, and then if you would just put in there, yes, I've used something, or no, not yet, that will help us kind of drive the bus for next year. But as always, I also like to know where the heck you are. So your city and state is always fun to know how far we're reaching, because we have folks who follow us from all over the world, and it's quite fun to see where people are watching from. So thank you for being here. I do encourage you, all of these grid designs that we're talking about have worksheets and downloadable designs so that you can kind of learn what we've talked about throughout 2021. So I highly encourage you to join our newsletter list because we put all of that in the newsletter. So you have tutorials and downloadables that you can access through your inbox and practice at home. We also include information in there about any upcoming specials that we may have, and we've got some really great stuff coming up. You know, we're headed into Christmas, so so we've got some great plans for you as well. And so be sure you're on the newsletter list, that you have all of that information. And I do want to share with you that each month we have a different Thread Fairy pack that our Quilt Fairies pick. And this month, because it's our spooky month, is the Dark Fairy. And the Dark Fairy is a limited edition thread pack, and right now the big cones, the king cones of the glide thread, are sold out in the Dark Fairy pack, but they should arrive tomorrow. So check back if you go to purchase the big cone, the king cone of the Dark Fairy pack. Check back tomorrow because we'll have them back in stock. Right now we have the mini cones, which are always super popular with not only our embroiderers but also our sit-down quilters as well. So it's a nice way, if you haven't dipped your toe into the glide thread world, our fairy packs are a great way to dip your toe into the thread fairy world. But those 3 colors are plum, vintage, and dragon. And like I said, the big cones should be in tomorrow or the next day. So definitely check back. And then I also want to say, you know, as we head into Christmas, we are going to start giving away fabric. Oh, giving away fabric? What? Yeah, we're going to start giving away 5-yard bundles. So 5 1-yard cuts, and they're coordinated together. And we are doing that on starting this Friday. So we're having our Friday fabric giveaway starting this Friday. And Rachel, those will be on, they can register to win on Facebook and Instagram. Is that right? So make sure you follow us on our Facebook page. So not in the Clubhouse, but on our business, on our Facebook page and in Instagram. Either one will get you entered this Friday. You don't have to do both. Either one, pick your choice. But we'll put up the call for entries, and you'll comment on that call for entries, and then we will select one randomly, and that person will get 5 yards of fabric. So that starts this Friday. I'm super excited about that. We did that a few months back too, and it was always fun to see folks get so excited. 5 yards of fabric is a pretty nice price, and they all coordinate. Okay, so then last month was my birthday month. So to celebrate, we had just a Ask Me Anything, just a live chat, and it was so much fun. And if you don't know anything about me, you may have figured out by now that I just like to chat. So we're going to do it again. We're going to do it again on October the 20th at 1 o'clock in the Quilted Joy Clubhouse group on Facebook. So it won't be live streamed and simulcast like this. So our monthly Clubhouse meetings, we live stream and simulcast those in multiple places: YouTube, our website, Facebook group, our Facebook page, all kinds of places. But the chat will just be inside our Facebook group. So if you are on Facebook and you just search for Quilted Joy Clubhouse, you will find us. And then October the 20th at 1 o'clock, you can ask me anything. We will have a call for folks to send in questions. I will say that I just got back from Denver, where we recorded the 3900 series of the Fons and Porter Love of Quilting show. And you guys, in that 3900 series, we recorded the 500th episode of the Fons and Porter Love of Quilting show for PBS. So if you think about it, there aren't a lot of PBS shows that reach the 500 marker. And so we had this big celebration, and joining us to watch, and then afterwards we had a chat with Marianne Fons and Liz Porter, and oh my goodness, I can't wait to tell you guys about that because it was amazing. 2 of my biggest quilting heroes, and I got to sit on a screen with them. I just, I sat there pinching myself. I can't imagine anything better, really. It was a fantastic experience, and I want to tell you all about. So we'll chat about the 3900 series recording and about the conversation that I had with Liz and Marianne. Love those 2. Miss them. Wish they were here. I'd give them a big old hug. So that is October the 20th at 1 o'clock. All right, so the year of the grid, we have done so many things with basic grids. We've done a few things with more advanced grids as well. We've done some things with grids that require like a circle ruler as well. The one that I want to talk about today are ghost grids because it's October and it's our spooky month. And what's nice about ghost grids is that you don't need a ruler, you just need a suggestion of an area. So the first one that I want to talk to you about is a ghost checkerboard. So we have talked about checkerboards in the past, and I've got it here on the screen. And this is one of those worksheets that would be in the newsletter, if you sign up for a newsletter, that you would get so that you could practice along at home. And so what I'm going to do, and Kelsey, I don't know why I can't, there it is. I'm trying to get my... That's weird. My little stylus is returning me to the upper left-hand corner anytime I go to use it. So it wasn't doing that 10 seconds ago. All right, I'm going to unplug my little stylus. So what I use to draw on the screen with is this drawing tablet. And it's made by Wacom, and it normally behaves quite well. And so it's just not. So are you telling me I'm going to have to draw with my mouse? Boy, I sure hope not, because that would be very embarrassing. All right, so I unplugged it. Kelsey, you got any other ideas for me?
Are the buttons stuck on the pin itself?
On the pin itself. Oh. No. All right, I'm thinking that rather than draw it, I will stitch it. And so Kelsey, I'm going to restart my computer. Will that throw you off?
Nope, I'm back on.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm going to restart my computer. This is always fun, right? To punt here. All right, let me just, I'm going to, sorry, I want to save everything that I've got so I don't, at least we don't crash and burn on that. All right, save. Okay, all right. Okay, so so this program that I use, it is called GIMP, G-I-M-P, and it's not what's giving me headaches right now. But I did want to just tell you, it's a free program, and you can get it for both Mac and PC, and it allows me to bring in a photograph and then draw on that photograph. And so while my computer's like figuring itself out, we'll just take it to the machine, Kelsey. Okay, so what I've done here is I've drawn a 1-inch grid using blue wash away marker. And I've got a pretty big grid here. We're going to do checkerboard, so I don't know how much of this we're actually going to fill, but we'll get going and see how we go. So I am going to start from the bottom of the grid. Is this okay, Kelsey? Can you see okay?
Yeah.
All right, so I've got it started here at the bottom. I'm going to drop my needle into the needle down position, and then I'm just going to go back and forth with little like wormy spaghetti lines. And of course we had to use green witchy fabric and orange thread here to give you that spooky atmosphere. And so what I've done is I've just come up from the bottom, and I want to make sure that when I finish that first grid that I finish in the upper right-hand corner, because that's going to be important. And the reason that's important is it gives me a little super highway where I can drop into the next block of my grid, because I'm interested in this little block here. And so I'm just going to go over and then fill that in. And I'm using this APQS Millie in stitch regulated mode. You could also do this in the quilt glide mode because it's such little changes of direction, or you could throw it into manual mode. So this next one, I'm going to end up here in the upper left-hand corner, and that way when I get going, I can drop into this next one, this next area here. And the next area here is what I'm going to fill with the next checkerboard. So I'm going to go in, and I would make these pretty dense and fill that whole space out that you have marked. So I have that whole area out marked, so I would definitely fill it in. And if you guys have any questions, definitely drop those in the chat, and Rachel and Jessie are here, and they'll let me know what questions that you have. Okay, I ended at the top. I'm going to skip this one. So I would sneak in the ditch, and then I would drop in, and I'm going to head back down. And I'm going to go over here and drop in this one. So I'm doing twosies. Did you notice that? Where I'm dropping stuff into every other little portion of my grid. And I'm just making sure that when I'm ready to drop, that I am exiting the previous square in the appropriate place, the appropriate side, so that I can drop into my next square. And if I screw it up, you know, and all of a sudden I'm on the wrong side, I can always sneak a little guy in there. All right, Kelsey, I'm thinking about doing one more. How do you feel about that? All right, so we're gonna do this one. And so I used a blue marker on there I think I use the Dritz blue wash away pen on here. So whichever one you like. Currently my favorite one, it changes all the time, but right now my favorite one is the Dritz. It's blue on one side and purple on the other. All right, Kelsey, I think that's it. And then I'm gonna,
Rachel's got a question.
oh, Rachel, somebody ask a question?
Yeah, Nancy is asking what size is the grid box?
Hey, Nancy, I just did a 1-inch so that it would go fast, Nancy, but you could do this on whatever. I think once you get above a 2, though, it can get a little thready. So, all right, so Kelsey, you can see that, correct? All right, so here comes the big ghost, and that is, so I told you I used blue thread, or blue marking pen, and so what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna spritz it with a little water, and that will reveal the look of the grid. So I've got my little squirty bottle, and I'm just gonna squirt. And so all of that grid goes away, and it just reveals the ghost of that checkerboard. Now I got it pretty darn wet, just so that it would all go away. And here, I'll move the machine over there. So can you see that and how awesome that looks? So that way you could put a ghost grid onto your fabric. So I have another one over here. Again, now this one, was that Nancy who asked that? You said it was Nancy, right? So Nancy, this next one I have is just a 2-inch grid, and I don't have many on here. In fact, let me draw one more line of the grid just to get one more, and I can show you. There's certainly stencils that will do that, Nancy, but I just used just a plain old ruler. You can see this, right, Kelsey?
Yeah.
And then I just want to connect. And sometimes the patchwork itself will do this, and you don't need to mark a darn thing because the seams of the block will do this for you. But we'll go ahead and mark it. So now, Nancy, I've got a 2-inch grid, and I've got 4 rooms of the top floor of my house, and what we're going to do is I call them swishes, but you know, you'll see, and we'll kind of decide together. It's always so hard to figure out what the heck to call something. So I'm going to start in this upper left-hand corner, and I'm going to use that magic rule of 3 that we've talked about before, where if I do 3 passes, I return back to where I started. So I'm going to go down 1 time. Or I'm sorry, 3 will move me forward. 2 will allow me to return. So I did 3 there, and I probably should have done them a little bit bigger. Let's do them a little bit bigger here, Nancy. So I'm going to do this one, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to slide through my ditch. And this time I'm going to, because I'm going to go up, I don't have the start of my grid. I'm going to go all the way up. I don't have to do a straight line. So 1, and then I'm going to go through, and then I'm going to go through to the top, and then I'm going to swing out, through, out, and then return. Out, swoop out, and sneak. All right, here we go. We're going to do it again. 1, and back up, swoop, and then out, and sneak over. 1, 2, and then 1 more. And do you see how when I reach that 3rd one, can you see here, Kelsey, is that in the frame? Awesome. So when I swoop, that's when I say I want to go out pretty far, because I'd really like these to get almost to touching or touching. So really fill that gap in. Okay, so now we're going to do this last part. And so this last part, this one is empty, so I'm going to sneak down the ditch. Then I got this first one here. 1, 2, big swoop, out, and then I would just finish it off. All right, so I don't know, what would we call this? Swoops? Swishes? What do you think? It's kind of hard to know. I've got my water here. And of course, we didn't do a very big area. This looks really cool on a big area. And it's an easy way, all right, that's pretty wet. It's an easy way to have things look interesting, like in a border or behind, and a smaller grid might even be better. Ooh, it's wet. So it's swishes in a bathtub. That's what we'll call it. That's what it looks like, right? But you get the idea of how this would build out. It could give you some really interesting, even a background filler. So there you go, swishes in a bathtub. We do a lot of tutorials and things online, and it's always like we stand here at the end, and I've stitched something out, and we go, okay, now what are we gonna call it? I don't know. What do you want to call it? I don't know. What do you want to call it? And we like try to figure out what in the world,
I've got a question from Carmela.
Carmela.
She's asking if we have a patchwork, would you stitch in a ditch around the squares?
So if you yes, so Carmela, I'm doing these grids just in a nebulous, bathtub space. We don't really have it, but for sure, any grid that you do, really any quilt design that you do at all, if you're going to put it into a defined space, the first thing I would do is nail it down. So stitch in the ditch and nail it down, because Carmela, one of the problems, these don't have the problem as much as some other designs, but anytime you're doing diagonal lines, especially any kind of diagonal movement, if you don't stitch in the ditch and nail that area down first, you're gonna knock it out askew, and suddenly that square that you were filling is no longer square. It's got a little in it. So whatever space you want to fill, what's cool about these two grids that I just showed you is that they can go in wackadoodle spaces. They can just blend into bizarre spaces. But they're also really good about regimented spaces. But for sure, Carmela, I would highly recommend that you nail down those edges, because that will certainly help you to knock things out of whack. Any other questions?
I have a question from Andrea.
Andrea.
And she's asking, would an open-toe foot make getting the correct mark easier?
So she's asking about an open-toed foot. So Andrea, in that in the latest, the 3900 series for the Fonson Porter Love of Quilting show, one of the things that I did with the Millie on the show was to show all the different feet. And of course, if you don't have a Millennium or you don't have a long arm machine, just know that all the different brands out there have different feet that you can put on your machine. And so to your point, an open-toed foot would help you see a little bit better, especially if you're going to put in these grids like behind applique for sure. So there's all different feet. The foot that I used on camera to talk about being able to see a little bit better was it's a high-profile foot with an open toe in the front, so you can use rulers on the back of the foot, but you have an open toe on the front. The other one that you might consider using, and these are APQS specific feet, but like I said, all the manufacturers out there have different feet. The other one that you could consider using is a low profile, so it's a shorty with an open toe, and it actually has a bevel on the bottom of it, so it floats over stuff. But Andrea, one of the cool things about these ghost grids is that if I don't hit the grid, well, nobody knows, because the grid's a ghost, it's going away. So it doesn't matter. You can't see it. So it's a little more forgiving in that way, Andrea. But yeah, open-toed feet are great. Just don't use a ruler with them. Pinky Swear promised me you won't use a ruler with them, because if you get a ruler hooked in the front of that open toe, if you're like the one I told you, that was high profile in the back, keep your ruler on the back side. Don't move it to the front, because if you hook your ruler in that open toe, it'll get crunched and you'll be sad. And nobody wants to be sad in quilt. So use rulers carefully is what my point is. Any other questions? Thank you guys for asking those questions. All right, well, I want to thank our sponsor, APQS. APQS makes all of their machines there in Iowa. They are 100% handcrafted in Carroll, Iowa, if you know anything about Iowa, and they are loved the world over. And of course, APQS machines come with a lifetime warranty, so you can quilt forever. So thank you so much, APQS. We really appreciate all that you do. And if you're interested in an APQS machine or learning more about APQS machines, you can certainly give us a ring here at Quilted Joy or send us an email. You will also find APQS dealers and APQS stores in your neck of the woods, or you can go to apqs.com. So thanks so much, APQS. All right, so I want to talk to you about some of our new arrivals, and it's our spooky arrival that came in, and that's the Here We Glow dark Halloween panel. And this one, so it glows in the dark. And Kelsey, I know the ghost and the mummy glow in the dark and the pumpkin faces glow in the dark. Do the little spiders and the bats and the stars glow as well? I think they do.
I think the outlines do, yeah.
So how fun would that be to have that glowing? And the checkerboard glows too? Oh my gosh. And it's got little ghosts in the background. So we just got this panel in. Who makes this panel? Henry Glass. Super, super cute. And I tell you, if you are looking for something to play on, to have fun with, I highly recommend a panel because it's a great little sandbox, a great little place to try out designs, and you can try out your ghost checkerboard and your ghost swishy bathtubs. There's got to be a better name. On your Halloween panel. All right, so I would also appreciate if you find what we talk about interesting or helpful. The best compliment that you could give to us would be to share this Clubhouse meeting with a friend of yours, or to review us over on Google. So the big Google machine decides who to serve us up to, and when you review us and leave a comment, it just helps the big Google machine to know that that we're good at what we do and that people like what we do, and then they serve us up to more people. So I do read every one of those reviews personally, and I certainly appreciate your time when you leave us a review. Okay, so each month we put a call out for people in the Quilted Joy Clubhouse to post a photo of an unquilted quilt top. And then I select one and bring it into the computer, and hopefully this is working. Oh, it looks like it is. Oh, good. And I will draw on the computer on the photo to show you how I would quilt it if it were my quilt. And so if you're on Facebook, join us in the Quilted Joy Clubhouse, and then each month when we put that call out, you can post a photo, and then I select one. So here's the one that I selected for this month. So Charmaine posted this photo, and Charmaine, I went right back in my head to Roman tiles and beautiful floors of amazing cathedrals. I love your quilt. And take a look here and see what jumps out at you first, because when I saw this photo that Charmaine posted, the first thing that leapt out to me were those cornerstones, those sashing pieces. So you normally don't see sashing pieces that are so large, but goodness, think about how much room that gives you to play in here. So I really want to enhance, Charmaine, your spaces there, your sashing and your cornerstone spaces. So the first thing I'm going to do is just zoom in, because I want to show you how I treated and how I brought out that kind of stone floor look that I was seeing. Is that good, Kelsey? You can see that okay? All right, perfect. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I wanna show you, this is the square that came out at me, and I'm just gonna quickly show you this square. This is what came out at me right here. And I'm sure that probably came out at you too. So what's awesome about this is that the quilt block itself kind of becomes part of the cornerstone. It kind of becomes part of the sashing. So that's what I'm going to be after here. So what I want to show you is the 4 marks that I need in order to do the design that I want to show you, Charmaine. So I'm going to put a dot here. So that's the midpoint on this side of the square, and a dot here, again that's the midpoint, and a dot here, that's the midpoint, and a dot here, that's the midpoint. Are we okay, Kelsey, or do I need to zoom in more?
I think that'll be all right.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm going to start at my first little dot that I made, and I'm going to go all the way across. Oh, I need my straight line, hold on. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go all the way across to here. Now, I want you to notice something. Do you see how these are they're kind of clipped off? So I'm going to show you over here. So imagine that this actually comes out, right? That this actually comes out. So I'm going to give it a ghost. I'm going to give it ghost points where it comes out, because that's not what the piecing does, but I'm going to suggest it with the quilting. So I'm coming out to that point where the point would be, and then I'm going to come down to where the point would be here. I'm going to cross over to where the point would be there, and then I'm going to come into the center and fill in this center. What I'm doing is I'm creating a quarter square triangle, or you may have heard it called an hourglass, inside these cornerstones to reflect and nod and pay homage to the hourglass and the quarter square triangles you have going on in the main part of the block. So I'm trying to tie the two together using the quilting. Okay, so I've come over and I filled that in, and I'm going to sneak out to here, to that point that we talked about before, and head, I have to sneak a little bit more, and head over. Now I've already done this stitch around that center, but I'm going to go through here and I'm just going to do kind of like that ghost grid that we did where it was just a little wormy back and forth. That's what I'm filling in. So I've basically created a pieced block inside this cornerstone that wasn't there before. And then I'm going to sneak out to that corner and keep on going. And now I have, by doing that, I have gone around the block, I have ditched the block, and I have filled in that hourglass or that quarter square triangle. So I'm going to sneak back out to where I started, which was here. And now I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around, just like we talked about, and get that block nailed down, return to where I started, and then I'm going to come over to that first little line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a diamond and a square around this cornerstone. And so Charmaine, if you remember, I put those 4 little dots to give me kind of my bearings, and so I had a place to aim with a straight line. And then when I get there, I'm just going to go down and touch that. So I'm going to go down and touch that and come back. So there's a double line of stitching there, just like there's a double line of stitching here. And I'm going to repeat that. So I'm going to go here to that mark I did, go in, come out, go here to that mark I did, go in, go out, go here to that mark I did. I've already gone in and out, so I don't need to do that. And then I'm not sure what the size is. Like, that would be great. Just right there, that would be great. But I thought if that size is bigger than I think it is, because it's hard for me to tell, then you could also go in here and just do like a little angle into that piecing. Again, to kind of combine the cornerstone with the blocks. All right, so then I've got this wide space here to deal with. And And so to show you what I did there, Charmaine, I'm just going to quickly, I'm not going to do the whole thing, I'm just going to do this outside block so that you can imagine that this cornerstone was done the same way. But I want to show you how I connected the two. So I just did a simple straight line here, come down, straight line, and then where these 2 blocks, there's a midpoint. Do you see that right here? There's a midpoint, a natural midpoint in your piecing. So I just went from here to that natural midpoint and down, and then same thing back. So I've got kind of a argyle there, a chevron there, and then I went through and just filled in, just like we did for those quarter square triangles and the hourglass. All right, so let me show you what that looks like. Let me zoom out here. And Charmaine, this was like midnight last night, so I didn't do the whole thing, but you get the idea. I just did those bottom ones that were closer to me. When photos are taken like this at an angle, it's hard for me to draw on them. So I know that this was a big quilt and not everybody has a space to do it. But anyway, that's why I didn't do, Charmaine, that's why I didn't do the entire quilt, just this bottom half so that you could get a sense of what's going on. Okay, so I've got my frame laid down. I have my hourglasses in those cornerstones to make a nod to what's going on in the piecing. So now let's take a look at how I'm going to deal with the blocks, with what's going on in the piecing. And so to do this, I'm going to actually zoom in to this bottom block here, because I think that will allow you to see it. And Kelsey, I'm hoping that the blue will show up on here. I'm pretty sure it will, but I'm hoping that it will show up on here. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to do that same kind of angle thing that we were doing before, this guy here. And I'm going to dip in and do this white space here. And then I'm going to do the same angle here. And once I hit, I'm going to come here to this corner. I'm going to go across, just like we did before, down, just like we did before, up, just like we did before. And now I'm going to come in and do my hourglass. And once I hit here, I'm going to come down and again do my hourglass. Once I hit here, I'm going to stitch in the ditch, and now I have ditched all the way around. And again, I have knotted with that hourglass shape to the piecing of the block as well as the cornerstones to bring it all together. So I ended here. I'm going to come down, and then I'm going to dip in and finish this out with a little diamond. So these kind of, I don't even know what you call them. They're kind of diamond shapes is how I'm going to get around this whole block. And I did the center when I came to it. So I could drop in and do that center that we just did, that hourglass center at any point. But if you were like me, if you don't do it the first time you hit it, you forget to do it. So I want you to notice I'm leaving that outside space undone for now, because I want to show you what I decided to do with that, Charmaine. I'm going to go around here and come out to here. So I'm just going, I'm not even sure what you would call this. If you have an idea what to call this, diamond lines, I don't even know. I'm back to where I started. Now look, I can finish this and I'm out. So that was one pass to do that whole block. What I'm going to show you next though, Charmaine, I did need to break my threads because I couldn't quite figure out how to do this next part without breaking threads. If I thought about it a little bit harder and a little bit more, I think there's a place to sneak in right here. But I just want to show you, and then maybe we can talk and figure out where to sneak in. So because this is on point, and because I have this kind of tile, Italian tile laid out, what I thought would be super cool would be to carve out that space and then go back in and fill it in with my little wormy back and forth. Now I want you to imagine that there is a miter here. All right, we're going to have to imagine the miter, because my little wormy guy is going to stay on that side of the miter, and then this little wormy guy, he's going to stay on his side of the miter. All right, we're done there. Going to repeat it. I'm watching that miter in my head, or you can mark it. This little guy, he stays on that side of the miter. And now we're going to do this one. Thinking about the miter, and then coming this way with this side. All right, we got one more. Wormy, 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 wormy. All right, Charmaine, so that nods its head again to that sashing. And so I want you to think about, we had talked about like where you could drop in. So I'm just going to change my color, and I want you to imagine, I know where this miter is right here. So I could potentially, when I hit this space here, this point here, this point here, and this point here, as I'm traveling around the block, I could potentially drop into that miter and either do like a straight line here and then go in and do that and do that, come out and out. That could be a way to go about it. Or I could travel up the ditch and that would ditch it in one movement. Was that clear, Kelsey?
It was a little hard to see over the blue.
It was hard to see over the blue.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it here. So, Charmaine, I could enter here, and I could come up this side of your block and up this side, and then go and make that, and then do my miter, and then travel over, down, out, and I'm gone. Is that better, Kelsey?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so Charmaine, I want you to see what that looks like on your quilt. Charmaine, you do whatever you want on your quilt, but that is how I would do your quilt. And again, it was midnight, so I only got that bottom row, but I hope that you could see that with that bottom row. That would be absolutely beautiful, and what I love is that it nods its head to the piecing and pulls it in to all that wide open space, and kind of brings the whole voice of the quilt together. So what do you think, Charmaine? When you finish it, Charmaine, however you choose to do it, if you would post a photo over in the Quilted Joy Clubhouse on Facebook, we always love to see what people decide to do. No pressure. Don't feel like you got to do what I did. You can do meander all over it, loops all over it, whatever you want to do, Charmaine, will be great. But that's how I would quilt your quilt if it were my quilt. Okay, so next month we're going to dive a little bit deeper into checkerboard designs, because checkerboard designs are one of those foundational designs. There's so many different ways to use them and so many different places you can pop them in. And so that it will be on Wednesday, November the 3rd at 1 o'clock Eastern. And be sure to join us on our social media. We're on Facebook. You can join our Facebook page for Quilted Joy. You can join our Facebook group, the Quilted Joy Clubhouse, and then we're also over on Instagram at Quilted Joy, and then of course on YouTube at Quilted Joy. And don't miss our 5-yard bundle giveaways every Friday coming up. So watch out for those and make sure that you follow us. You don't have to liking won't show it to, Facebook won't choose to show it to you. You have to choose to follow us, and then Facebook will actually show you when we post. Facebook likes to hide things, so if you follow, you'll actually see it, and then you'll be notified so that you can win that 5-yard bundle. And then do join me at our live chat on October the 20th at 1 o'clock, and I'm going to tell you all about the 3900 series of Love of Quilting and what happened on set when Marianne and Liz joined us. Love them. It was fabulous. Oh my goodness, can't wait to tell you all about it. All right, you guys, I'll see you later. Bye. Thanks for joining us. See ya. Bye.